If you've worked on your own bike and you've put your back wheel on, you might have faced this very annoying problem. When you tighten your back wheel, your wheel moves. And this is enough to drive anybody absolutely crazy. There are a few things that you need to do to make sure that this doesn't happen. It took me many years of trial and error to figure out what these things are and to understand why this is actually happening. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why this happens and how to avoid it. Broken Bros says, my free coaster wheel goes to the non-drive side when I tighten my chain with my wheel all the way back. I have absolutely no idea what you mean by that. Unless you mean, if this is an issue you guys are having, I'll just like assume this is what you mean. You've got your bike, you got your back wheel, and when you tighten your wheel goes like this, right? Is that what's going on? That's a very frustrating thing. That was happening on this bike when I put it together, when I built that wheel up. And this is caused by a few things. So if you're tightening your bike, it has nothing to do with it being a free coaster or a cassette. Essentially, what you need to look at is the spacer between your nut and between your frame. So you tighten the nut, and then you've got your spacer, and then you've got your frame. What happens is if you pull off that washer, there's a side with teeth and there's a side without teeth. And you want the side with teeth to go towards the frame, and you want the side without teeth to be facing the nut. Because what happens if it's flip-flopped is those teeth, that knurling bites into whatever it's tightening against. And if it's the nut that it's biting into, the nut's gonna spin it and it's gonna crawl along the frame. And that's an incredibly frustrating thing, because you want your wheel to stay straight, and then you tighten it and your wheel goes like this, and you want to quit BMX. Like that has happened to me a lot. You just want to quit BMX when that happens. So take a look at that spacer and make sure that the knurling is facing the frame. The other thing that you want to do is tighten it in increments. So get it together. Get it tight on snug on one side, not tight. Get it snug on one side, get it snug on the other side, okay? And then do like half a crank on the other side so that it doesn't move, half a crank on this side so it doesn't move, half a crank, half a crank, half a crank. And then it gets tight enough on both sides so that you can really crank it down without it crawling along the frame. But generally, if you try and tighten one side more than the other side at first, it's gonna shift. And it's really frustrating. And if your spacers don't have that knurling or they're flipped around, that's going to happen a lot. And so if you can fix that, that's going to minimize that, but also it still might happen. And like I think on the Colony bike behind me, I don't have a spacer on the side without a peg. I don't have a spacer on one side, and that's a little ghetto, but it does make it harder to tighten it. And so you've got to just go piece by piece. Tighten one side a little bit, tighten the other side a little bit, and then work your way up there. If that's your issue, that'll have nothing to do with the free coaster. If you actually love BMX, join the BMX Nerd Discord. The link is in the description.